We're back. I'm Nick. This is Fowles.
Nope.
No, that's the
Nope.
other way around.
Nope.
I love
Other
it.
way around.
Did you feel like that
Love
was
it.
intentional? Maybe I forced a trade on you without you even
Did you
knowing. Did you
did you
see what was
trade,
going
by
on
the
there?
way? I'm so
but
confused right
but
now.
we're actually not talking about trades here. We're talking about what the hell do we do with that player segment, man? And we are talking about Paolo Banchero, man. Obviously I'm a Magic man. This guy's right now, early days in this season, 29 points, 9 rebounds, nearly 6 assists, nearly 50% from the field. Um, Look, I said we were going to move up the standings this year for the Magic. I'm going to have to probably adjust my expectations accordingly with our best player out now for potentially, I think, maybe 6 weeks, maybe. Who knows? You tell me. You're the medical man here. How long is an oblique injury take you out for, please?
Oh well, the physio down the road said that that's not good. So he's torn a right oblique. It's hard to know what the degree of it
What
is,
exactly
but
is an
torn
oblique,
doesn't
man?
sound good.
What exactly is an oblique? Please, we
Your
go.
obliques
Oh, it's
is
here on the side. Okay,
Yeah,
on the
so
side. Okay,
it's obviously
okay.
you're twisting abdominal, which makes sense in a basketball
We're gonna
context.
get
It's not the
we're
first
gonna get some
oblique injury.
hate here from a physio. No, that's not correct.
Well, probably go for it. Engagement, any engagement's good engagement. Look, I think the big thing here is 4 to 6 weeks. Like I said in the previous video, I'll say it again. Assume 6 weeks, if not more,
6 weeks.
because you're not talking about just some bench guy who's on $1 million. You're talking about their star young player. You don't rush him back, right? And Dame Lillard is probably the most recent example of an abdominal injury having lingering effects. He had a real down year in Portland because he had an abdominal injury. In fact, he missed a lot of time and also didn't look the same when he came back. So 4 to 6 weeks is ambitious. And it's the worst time of the season for it to happen because they can shut him down at the end of the 6 weeks and say, you know what, we got to write the season off, let the other young guys go,
Magic can't go
figure out
right
the
the
lineup,
season
come
off.
back. Well, I'd make the case and say they could because they have enough young guys like Anthony Black and Jed Howard that they've got to figure out who's going to step into that role, kind of like Memphis did last season. Figure out who your extra role players are, and then come back next year loaded. So, Paolo, 50 points is what's bumped his average. He did have two 30-point games. He did have two teen scoring games. But Paolo, I thought about drafting him because last season he was great value for everything but percentages. And he appears to be doing the same this season. He is a clear hold, though, because the difference between him and who we were talking about in DeJounte Murray and even Paul George last week, he is the number one option. He is their guy. He is their all-star. He is their franchise player. When he comes back, even if he's bad, he's still going to be given the ball and allowed to take 20 shots. And so he's going to naturally get production far easier than some other guys who are trying to slot into a team dynamic when they come back. The hard part is it just going to be 6 weeks, right?
It's
So
it's
could you
funny.
explore a trade?
I'm funny. Like, look, if you could trade Banchero right now, I got two parts to this, mate. Mate, let's start with the first part. You're obviously saying hold him right now, but you dropped him at the end of last season. And you've derided him a few times now that he was part of your reason why you didn't win fantasy
He was part
last
of the
year,
problem. Yeah, it's
right?
part of the problem.
So
Yeah.
what has he done this year now? And you sort of rounded up his stats because he had that 50 game, 50 game in that sense. So that bumped his scoring up. What is he doing this season in its early days now
I
that you're saying that he's worth
think it's
holding versus dropping?
Yeah, because here are some stats. It's 5 games versus 80, so the average has to be taken with a grain of salt. But last season, he averaged 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.4 assists, right? On 45% shooting. And it was threes that we played in a percentage year lead. He was shooting 33.
Mm-hmm.
This season, he's averaging one less turnover, 7 more points, um, almost a steal, almost a block versus not doing that last season. Same amount of assists, two extra rebounds, and shooting 5% better. That's the reason why he's far better than he was last season. Uh, Everything's better.
So
Everything that you want is the better. And he's the
okay,
number
so
one
so
option on a
he's
team.
met the barrier now to hold. Because last year, obviously, you felt that he was one of the players, him and Miles Bridges, that was not helping your cause at the end of the season. And every team scenario is different, I guess, what stats you're looking for. But you're saying that he was not worth holding last season, but now he's worth
No, no, no,
holding
no, no,
through
no.
this
I
injury.
think I think, that could have been a case of, look, I looked at it. I had Kuzma, him, and Bridges.
Yep.
And all three of them play very similar roles, where they were all averaging about 20, and they were all shooting about 40% at best, and they were having a couple of turnovers. I think it was the quantity of those players that hurt me. So he's also taken a leap that playoff run against Cleveland last season was legitimate, and this happens with young players where they get into the playoffs, they cut their teeth a little bit, they realize that basketball is a bit serious and can be beyond the regular season, and it motivates them. And
Mm.
he's good enough for it to be motivated. And he's bigger, and he's getting bigger
He's
because
getting
he's
better,
getting
correct?
older.
Okay, yep.
He's
And
getting better,
look,
and
I
he's
guess,
young, so
and
he can heal better and he can play more. There's all of that working in his favor.
so I guess you just said before, if you could trade him, you're a Banchero owner. If you could trade Banchero right now, who do you think he should target? Who's a realistic trade right now that he's injured, but you're trying to sell on his hot start so far? He's nearly averaging 30 points. Who do you think you could target right now that's realistic? Yeah, I don't know. Sengun? Would you
Definitely
trade?
not
Would
Shengun.
you would not trade
Oh no,
Banchero
sorry.
for
If
Sengun?
I was in that scenario, yes, no, I would actually give up on Shengun for Paolo, but I don't know why the Paolo owner would do that
Mm.
because I'm selling. We're both of us are selling on potential,
Yeah.
right? One is going to play and one won't at this
So
point.
so
But
Colin should call you. I think Colin has Banchero.
yeah, Colin, call me. Yeah. I actually thought about offering Steph for him because I felt like out of the two of them, there's 10 years difference between Steph and Paolo, and Paolo has a higher ceiling at this stage in his career than Steph does. That's how I viewed it. I could be wrong. You
Yeah.
can ignore me. Tyrese Maxey comes to mind a little bit. So Tyrese Maxey is another 30-point shooter, but far worse percentages. But will play a lot. It's like for like in stats, but Paolo I feel like has a little bit more upside. Um, could you do a package of like Buddy Hield and a really good center that gives you a double double and get something back just to kind of plug some holes? There is. It depends how your league operates, right? I don't know how many leagues are trading injured players at this point and trying to stash. I don't know if that happens as much. Like I've only got a small sample, but Paolo has value, and his value could easily go up in 2 months, 3 months' time when the season is in the middle of the season, or his value might be the highest right now and he actually struggles to come back from this because, you know, injuries are weird. I know that the NBA has the best facilities, best medicine, best treatment, etc. But we see it quite often, and I think we're going to actually do another video on some injury stuff soon.
Hmm.
That it's never a guarantee, right? And availability is sometimes the best ability in fantasy. And this is a guy that's injured that isn't named Asar Thompson and is yet to play. And even if he does play, is only like a bit of a stocks fantasy guy. You're talking about an all NBA, all star player that has value that maybe you trade now and you cop that if you lose, but you will probably get something that will be serviceable, if not, you know, better.
Well, that's the tips we got for Paolo Banchero, man. Hold him or trade him for another All-Star if you can. Good luck. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily trade for him, but you can definitely throw Steph Curry out there. I'd love to see what Colin does, man. Maybe you need to call him for that coffee first or beer. He likes beer.
Does he? Fantastic.
Tip of
All
the
right.
day.